Hello, class. Today we are talking about one of your favorite things. Today we're talking about television. We're going to start with this little video, it's about a minute and a half long, talking about how the television became what we know it is today.
In 1940, there were just a few thousand TV sets in the whole country. By 1970, there are over 60 million. TV will play a defining role in shaping a new era.
America has always tried to adopt new technologies. Television as we know it today, it was considered, think about this crazy idea where we can send moving images to any place in the United States.
1945, David Sarnoff, Eisenhower's most senior communications expert, helped develop television for America. By 1950, Sarnoff creates one of the biggest TV broadcast networks in the world. TV may be a new form of entertainment, but it's also the most powerful communications device in existence.
Sarnoff recognized that there was going to be awesome power, and that with that awesome power was going to come awesome responsibility.
By 1970, the American public is watching more television than any nation on Earth. Over 5 hours a day for every man, woman, and child.
Isn't that crazy? We watch over 5 hours of TV a day on average in America. If we work or go to school, that pretty much means right when we get home, we become couch potatoes till we sleep. All right, so television is a huge part of consumerism. Remember, you generally buy something after you see an advertisement for it. And since we're watching 5 hours of television a day, that's a great place for advertisers to put their ads. Now, before we jump into our first article, let's go over to Google Classroom. Now, you may have noticed on Google Classroom, there's a new assignment posted. It's called My Notebook. All right? It says you will keep notes from the readings here for the next few weeks. Make sure you keep good notes. It'll make your final performance task a lot easier. As we read and do other activities, you'll be keeping notes on this Google Doc. The more notes you take, the easier your final performance task is going to be. Creating that multimedia assignment, it's going to be a lot easier to create that if you already have all the notes done from all the readings that we've done. If not, if you leave this blank, you're going to have to go back and reread all the readings to do a good presentation. And we all know that you're not going to do that. And so your presentation won't be very good, and then your grade will tank. So go ahead and open up Google Classroom, and let's open up My Notebook so you can take a look at that. So open that in another tab, and then come back to this video. All right, so here's what your My Notebook looks like. All right, it says at the top, you will fill out these charts as we go through our readings. You will use these notes to complete the performance task at the end of the unit. The better your notes are, the easier the performance task will be for you. I know I keep repeating this, but it's because it's very, very important. All right, now the first thing we're going to read is an article called Life at Home in the 21st Century by Jean E. Arnold. All right, now when you take notes in here, you can just copy and paste the quote or whatever your idea is, put it right here into this box. I have an example here for you. All right, so here's a quote from the article we're about to read. I put the line number in here, so that's so I can find it again if I need to. Then the what does this mean to you part. This is, well, why did you want to write this down? Well, because this is what I thought when I read this quote. All right, so I'm challenging you to think when you write this down. Then you're going to write down a question this quote makes you think of. All right, so come over here. It says that TVs are witness to such intimate and emotionally bonding experiences speaks volumes about television and the American way of being. All right. In the article, it talked about how TVs are even in hospitals when babies are born. All right. That's an intimate experience, the birth of a child, and TVs are there to watch it. All right. So what this means to me is, wow, that means TVs are like family. Right? They're there when my son was born, right? Because they're in the hospital room, just hanging up there. Right? We can't live without TVs. They are so important. Notice that I can write however I want here. This is just kind of me talking about it. Then over here, a question this quote makes me think of. Well, wow, if TVs are like family, can TV influence me like my family influences me? This would be something really good to put into your multimedia presentation. All right, you're talking about, man, TVs are just like family. Because in the article by Jean E. Arnold, Life at Home in the 21st Century, she said, boom, you quote it. After you quote it, you can say, man, this means we can't live without them. All right, and TVs probably influence me like my family influences me. And you can talk about that. That's an A project right there. All because I just copy and pasted something and thought about it for a little bit. All right, so we're going to go over and we're going to read Life at Home in the 21st Century. When we read it, I'll try to prompt you every now and then about really good quotes to copy and paste over here in this notebook. All right, so right now I'm going to go ahead and go over to collections and open up the reading. All right, so when we do this first reading, we're just going to do it through this video. Later, I'll let you guys access it on collections, and then you can do your copying and pasting there. All right, so let's start with the background from this reading. It says, it's hard to imagine, but less than 100 years ago, television as we know it didn't exist. Then, in 1927, Philo T. Farnsworth successfully transmitted an image onto a remote screen. Imagine that. They must have freaked out the first time they took one image in one room and transmitted it to a room miles away. I was like, dude, you can see what I see. This is crazy. So by the early 1950s, TV purchases skyrocketed. Today, almost every home in the United States has at least one. This excerpt from Life at Home in the 21st Century describes what a team of archaeologists uncovered about TVs when they examined the daily lives of 32 California families. Now, wait a minute, don't archaeologists just dig up bones of dinosaurs? Well, these guys decided to study some artifacts from not too long ago, and these artifacts were TVs. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. So we're going to let the lovely lady read to us.
From Life at Home in the 21st Century. Informational text by Jean E. Arnold. Television and Daily Life. In North America, and in as few as 3 generations, mass media broadcasts by analog and digital signal has all but replaced oral history and become the primary conveyor of culturally shared ideas. Broadcast communication, particularly television streamed content, figures so prominently in economic decisions, political outcomes, and moral reasoning that even at the height of the last U.S. recession, TV advertising expenditures exceeded $50 billion.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. What? This is boring and I can't even understand it. Well, this lady, when she types or when she writes at a high level of English. Remember that homeless guy and what the lady in the suit came and changed his sign into, right, in that video we watched? This is all about changing your words. Now, just because you don't understand it right now doesn't mean that you can't understand it. And that's why they actually provided this text in focus for us. So we're going to go ahead and watch this video so we can kind of understand what this paragraph means.
Let's look more closely at this sentence. Broadcast communication, particularly television stream content, figures so prominently in economic decisions, political outcomes, and moral reasoning that even at the height of the last U.S. recession, TV advertising expenditures exceeded $50 billion. That's a complicated sentence. Actually, a lot of the sentences in this article are complicated. And reading a complex text can be hard. But let's look at why this sentence is complex and think about a strategy that might help you deal with that complexity. At the heart of this sentence is a sentence type that you're probably familiar with. Something was so something that something. For example, those headphones are so loud that I can completely hear that song. This sentence has that same pattern, but with lots of other details added in to make it complex. So let's use this pattern to make the original sentence more understandable. Broadcast communication figures so prominently, or is so important, that even at the height of the last U.S. recession, TV advertising expenditures exceeded, or costs were more than, $50 billion. That still leaves a few parts out, particularly television streamed content and, in economic decisions, political outcomes and moral reasoning. But now that you have a better understanding of the sentence's basic structure, it'll be easier to see how these parts fit in. In this part, the writer is saying that the most important form of broadcast communication is TV. And in this part, she's saying that TV is very important in these three areas of our lives. Let's put it all back together now. Broadcast communication, particularly television streamed content, figures so prominently in economic decisions, political outcomes, and moral reasoning that even at the height of the last U.S. recession, TV advertising expenditures exceeded $50 billion. Sentences with this pattern are quite common. In fact, the next sentence in this text uses the exact same pattern. So as you read the complex sentences in this article, try to think about the structure of difficult sentences. And one good place to start is to carefully look at commas. Commas will give you some good hints about sentence structure.
So let's come back to this paragraph. Starting this sentence that the video just went over, what are the three major areas affected by broadcast communication? Look at the sentence and choose which are the three major areas affected by broadcast communication. All right, so the answer is right here. It figures in economic decisions, right? And it figures in political outcomes and moral reasoning. So, economic decisions are decisions we make about the economy, about finances. Economic means money. So, the decisions we make about money is affected by television stream content. Also, political outcomes. My goodness, we just had an election, right? So much stuff was on TV about both candidates, right? And the reason why these ads are out there, because they know it's going to sway the political outcome. And finally, moral reasoning. Watching a show like Narcos might make you think that, well, drug running is okay, right? That's a moral choice or reasoning. Moral means what's good and bad, right? Maybe you watch a show that's more religious based, so maybe you make your moral decisions that way. All right, so those are the three areas that this lady is saying that TV affects. There's those three areas. This would be a really good sentence to copy into your notebook. So later on, you can talk about how, look right here, this really smart lady just said TV affects how we spend our money, politics, and what we decide is good or bad. So the question here is, which one of the following shows would probably affect people making economic decisions or decisions about spending money? Now, which shows would affect political outcomes or how people view politicians like the president or governors? So which one of the following shows would probably affect political outcomes? And lastly, what shows would affect the moral reasoning of its viewers, right? What they think is good or what they think is bad. So here's this paragraph again in case you want to copy and paste this into your notebook, or you can just open up your collections and go to page 221. All right, so it's in your textbook on page 221. You can ask a neighbor or me if you want help on how to access a textbook in case you forgot.